You're a courageous church having me come back and preach again. I had an idea for a sermon. I was glad that David asked me to preach because I'd been stewing on something. And I'd been stewing on the notion of compassion and compassion fatigue. And David emailed me and he said, "Oh, that's nice. But I was thinking maybe something about despair, given the state of our politics, the state of the world, etc." Thank you, David. I have been reading about despair for days and days. I've looked at instances and expressions of despair in both the Old and the New Testament. And I finally came across the story of Jesus in Gethsemane, where even Jesus felt despair, that his disciples could not stay awake on this, the most important night of Jesus' life, his impending trial, crucifixion, and death. One of the most unsettling parts of my preparation for this particular sermon is that so much of the literature wants to talk about despair and immediately jump to hope. And I'm thinking, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to just see my despair, feel it, own it, and then go, whoo, there is some hope. Yay! Something bad happens. Something horrible happens. You think something bad might happen. You think something horrible might happen. Something devastating happens. And all I hear is, let's bring it to God in prayer. He, gender specific, he will make everything right. God will protect you. God will smite the evildoers and bring every lost sheep into the fold. But what do we do, and maybe this is just me, what do we do when we don't believe in a magical God that does our bidding for us? A strong, white, male God with a long gray beard, a father figure who will swoop in and make everything okay. It might just dump me in a barrel of despair. Let's be clear. It's one thing to feel concern, fear, trepidation about the future. Lord knows I do. One thing to feel dismay, betrayal, deep disappointment, overwhelming confusion about how and why people support a leader, any leader, who actively wants to destroy what we've come to call our country, our home. It's quite another thing to despair. I could not get myself to write a sermon title that says, "From Despair to Hope." It felt false to me. I want to acknowledge that I sometimes, and we sometimes, feel despair in our lives. A family member, a relationship, despair about our country, and the almost 400 million people who call the United States home. I'm not sure I want to live in a world where the forces of hate, inequality, and cruelty are de rigueur, the order of the day. where injustice and a lack of compassion is normalized. You can see why I don't want to jump to hope. But it's different than dismay, disappointment, feeling betrayal, deep worry and concern. What exactly is despair? Despair is giving up. It's giving up and wanting to crawl into a hole and stay there. I'm a pretty optimistic guy. I'm not prone to bouts of despair, but sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel despair about what's going on in my world and occasionally in my life. But if it's giving up, then despair becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. All the things I wish wouldn't happen will happen if I just crawl into a hole. So again, with gratitude to David for this topic, I have been stewing about this sermon for days, not wanting to give it a sense of hopelessness that we sometimes feel, and at the same time, not ready to take that beautiful leap into hope. On Monday, I had no appointments. So I'm pondering the sermon and its theme, and I end up binge watching much of season 2 of Resident Alien. That's okay. I scheduled all of Thursday for my sermon prep. On Tuesday, I'm busy with church stuff in the morning. And in the afternoon, I'm pondering this sermon and end up finishing the last 2 episodes of Resident Alien. Wednesday is a wash. I have a 3-hour meeting at a Black Catholic church about the Black Wealth Builders program. Then a client, followed by a meeting with my co-founder of the Black Wealth Builders. Whew! I've been able to escape facing the issue of despair for one more day. But then Thursday comes. It's even in my calendar on my phone. Sermon prep. At 8 a.m., I get a text from a client who wants a counseling session and wants it right now. So I have an hour counseling session. Then I call a close friend who's struggling with some deep personal issues, and I'm concerned. Then some important emails that I've committed to writing and sending. Then a phone call with a colleague who wants me to speak at her church on the Black Wealth Builders program. Then a client from 4:30 to 5:30. She's lost both her elderly parents in the space of a few months. Then I'm making dinner, acknowledging that by 7 p.m., my brain is fried. But damn it, I've finished Resident Alien. Somewhere in the quiet of a seemingly unproductive Thursday afternoon, a phrase comes to me that I learned from a friend as we were both finishing our last year of seminary. I was angry with God for the interruptions in my life until I realized God was the interruptions in my life. I see what you're thinking. Don't judge me. I see what you're thinking. No, I'm not sure whether watching hours and hours of Resident Alien is God breaking into my life. Maybe it's just me being lazy. Or what is probably true is that I don't take enough downtime to rest. And when I do, I feel guilty. And I was likely procrastinating because I couldn't quite wrap my mind around the idea of despair and was determined not to rush to hope. But here's a small bit of reflection that came to me. If you're tempted to despair about anything, stay engaged with people and with the wider world. In the face of potential political disaster, in the face of seemingly overwhelming conditions, in the face of deep disappointment in the state of the world or just your own life, in the face of persistent injustice for those we call sister and brother, in the face of thousands of Palestinians dead in Gaza, in the face of rampant anti-Semitism in this and other countries, in the face of a growing mental health crisis among young adults, in the face of global warming, floods, fires, and tornadoes, in the face of the hundreds of small things that we tend to let get under our skin, don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give in to the arrogance that you personally, that I personally, have to fix everything by my own. Don't put your hopes in the notion that everything's fixable. Some things aren't. Another dear friend of mine, Barbara, has a card on her desk in her home. And on this card is typed a single question: what is mine to do? Because I don't know about you, but I tend to feel like everything in the world I have to address. I have to do something. And if I can't, I'm somehow a failure. And with Barbara's help, I've learned that I need to first discern what's mine to do, not what has to get done, not what's needed, but of all these things, what's mine to do. It's helped me defend against moments of despair and guilt. It's a question that I've learned to ask for both my long-term life and on a day-to-day basis. Moment by moment during any day, I will sometimes remind myself of that question when I'm not binge-watching sci-fi. I think that what I'm trying to suggest is that if you're feeling on the verge of despair, one, I understand. I really do. I know those moments when we feel all is lost. Might as well crawl into that hole and just sit. Two, it's okay to stay in those feelings for a little while. Don't tell yourself, I have to snap out of this and find hope if you're not ready. But don't let it become a permanent resident in your soul. And last, determine what is yours to do, small or large, and just do it. Another thing we can do when we are feeling on the verge of deep despair, and this is going to sound so Pollyanna, but let me explain. Go out into nature. Go out into your garden, go out into the forest, go down to the ocean, take a walk someplace beautiful, come to my garden and see my vegetables growing, look at the daffodils on my back deck. Find something beautiful and bask in it. Or do what others have done, you take a forest bath. Another dear friend of mine, Roberta, just down the road in San Rafael. I'm in the middle of Berkeley Bowl shopping for groceries. I'm in the middle of the produce section, and my phone rings. Now, Roberta had knee replacement a month ago, less than a month ago, and she is at home. She has not been outside her yard. She has not been outside her house for several weeks. But she did manage to get into her garden. And there in her garden was a cherry tree in full bloom with tiny little green leaves on it. What does Roberta do? She calls Barry. And because I know she's been at home recuperating, when I see her name printed on my phone when I'm in the middle of Berkeley Bowl, instead of saying, I got work to do, I've got a sermon to prep, I've got groceries to buy, I answer the phone. And Roberta is in tears. But these are tears of joy. Because in all the things that's going on into her aging life, she goes out to her garden and she sees something beautiful, something gorgeous. And when I say that asking you or encouraging you to go out into nature is not Pollyanna, it's very deeply theological. We tend to think that the world revolves around us human beings. We tend to believe, even innately, that all of creation was meant just for us. And it's really emotionally, theologically, and spiritually healthy to go out and realize beyond us, there's this huge creation that we had nothing to do with. And we are gifted with experiencing it if we want to. She and I agree that beyond the science of botany or chemistry or physiology, life is a miracle. Life is a gift. Stay engaged. Stay engaged. No matter how young or old you are, stay engaged. So why stay engaged with those you love and those who love you? Why stay engaged in the compassionate work that we do? Why concern ourselves with the poor and the hungry? I was telling you, I was at this meeting on Wednesday. I was explaining the Black Wealth Builders program to a young man. He's 22 years old. He's into politics. It's either a gift or a pity, I don't know which. He loves politics at the student and local level. He gives me this very lukewarm nod about the Black Wealth Builders. Very wishy-washy expression that said, this isn't really fixing the problem, Barry. Last Wednesday at the Catholic Church, there was a local politician in the room. Bless his heart. He said that given the high cost of housing in the Bay Area, perhaps a loan of $20,000 wasn't relevant. One definition of reparations is a 3-step process: naming the damage, fixing the damage, and reconciling the two parties. Has the Black Wealth Builders Fund fixed all housing injustices? No. Will we be able to reconcile with every black member of our communities? Probably not. But 27 black individuals now have a new home and a good deal of hope. There, I said it. I have not reconciled with every black member of our society, but for these 27 people, life is new. Life has possibilities. Life has hope. What's yours to do? Stay engaged. You haven't cured the radical shortage of housing for low-income seniors. You folks haven't. You haven't. You haven't fixed it for everybody. But you've helped countless seniors one apartment at a time. Can you reconcile with all seniors? No. But one senior, one human, one child of God at a time has affordable housing. We need to remember that we can germinate a bit or a mountain of hope. And the way you do that is by nurturing your relationships, by not isolating. Isolating foments despair. Finding what is yours to do brings you hope. We need to remember that we need to engage. But sometimes our perspective on life is not big enough, and sometimes our perspective on life is too big. It's not big enough in that we think that the human species is the center of the cosmos. We are just a speck, a blink, a passing moment in the scheme of creation. It is we who think the rest of creation is just for us, more important than our daily grind. Going out into nature is not a Pollyanna experience. It is awakening to the reality that there is so much more than us. Maybe enough to teach us not to take ourselves, individually or as a race, as a species, too seriously. Stay engaged and discover your hope in the love and depth of your relationship with each other and with others. Let that sustain you. I had a conversation as I was coming into this sanctuary earlier today. I won't name this person, but this person, unbid by me, said, "There are 2 people that I care about that are not doing well, and I can't visit them." So I called and spoke to their loved ones. That's hope. Stay engaged and nurture your hope by knowing that the small kindnesses, the small acts of compassion, the moment with a stranger in the street, the phone call to friends, the extra tip at the restaurant, the get well cards you send, the phone call to check in with somebody. Let that sustain you. Stay engaged. This is not a complicated sermon. This is not a theologically deep sermon. But if you go home and just remember, stay engaged, you will find that you will not despair. In my bathroom, at a location that I cannot describe, there is a lithograph hanging. And this lithograph is a white lithograph in relief. And there is a line of ballet dancers. Everybody is in white, except the person in the middle is painted yellow. And it's clear that the person in the middle has stumbled. The caption reads, "When you stumble, make it part of the dance." And just for today, I'd like to change the wording just a bit. When you feel tempted to despair, stay in the dance. Stay in the dance with your friends and family. Stay in the dance with those you meet every day. Go out into your patio or a forest or the ocean and dance with the wonder and gratitude at a creation that's so much larger than you are, than us, than this one planet, than this one universe. Let it wash over you, as it did my friend Roberta, and leave you with, okay, there's that sermon title I've been avoiding. Let it move you from times of despair to times of hope. Just a little or a lot. What I told this young man who questioned the efficacy of the Black Wealth Builders program is, no matter what happens in your life, always stay in the dance, even when you stumble. Stay engaged. Amen.